Hey there, it's Phil McDowell, the Mortgage Professor, brought to you by Mortgage Alliance. Mortgages are marvelous. The other day, someone came in to me and said, I saw your little thing, your video, on, hey, this rent-to-own could be a big scam. Well, it's okay to be an armchair quarterback and be a naysayer and tell people, oh, this can go wrong, this can go wrong, this can go wrong. Do you have any suggestions on how to make it go right? Well, as a matter of fact, I do. What we're looking for is, there is a marketplace right now where there is enough inventory where vendors are looking at different options to sell property, one of them being a rent-to-own. And we've got people who are good people that may have an issue with income qualification under standard criteria, or their down payment isn't there, or there's something about credit that can be cured but needs a little time. So what we've got really are willing buyers and willing sellers, just like a normal quote-unquote marketplace. The difference, though, is on a rent-to-own, the time frame between the contract being written up and when the title changes hands could be longer than normal. And what I mean by longer than normal is there may be issues with a potential buyer that would take time to fix. There could be a credit issue that needs a credit score elevation. There could be the type of income or the documentation isn't right. There could be a host of reasons, but ultimately they are willing buyers that have a way of fixing whatever is wrong, but it's going to take time. And you've got a vendor who wants to sell a property and is willing to accept that it'll take some time to know that the property is actually sold. Doesn't want the bleeding, the pain and anguish of having a vacant property. So the choice is, do I have a tenant or do I have a rent-to-own where I've got someone paying market rents, just like a tenant, but they've got more of a vested interest to look after the home and actually complete a sale with me. So when you think in those terms, what they're entering into is a real estate purchase contract that is very much like a normal contract, except the closing date is longer. Now, what does a normal real estate contract look like? Usually there's a price. There's a closing date. In other words, here's the transaction date when we finish. Now, a lot of people buy properties, and when they make an offer on a property, they put in conditions. There's a host of conditions, but one of the most common one is condition 2 financing. Now, if someone, for example, makes an offer on a $400,000 property and says, I need $380,000 worth of financing. In the meantime, I will give you a $5,000 deposit to let you know that I'm serious. But if I can't get that $380,000 worth of financing, then the contract is void. You give me my $5,000 deposit back and everyone's cool. Well, a rent-to-own means that the person who wants to buy the property may take a year or may take 2 years in order to qualify for financing. So what you've got is a purchase agreement with a price, a closing date, and a very extended condition date. And that condition to financing means, just like the one that said, hey, give me 5 days to financing. If I can't, contract's void, give me my deposit back. Well, this one says, hey, here's a purchase, I'll give you a deposit, but it's going to take 2 years for me to get my condition to financing removed. In the meantime, the vendor is going to have a tenant in the property who is making a down payment that is refundable. So the initial deposit, the ones that they make additionally over the months, building up a bigger deposit towards that trigger date, that closing date, here's the catch. If you don't have it as a refundable deposit, the default insurers like Canada Mortgage and Housing, Genworth, Canadian Guarantee, are looking at that as not a purchase contract, and those additional deposits, if they're not refundable, don't count for a down payment. It'll frustrate the deal. So Moral of the story, treat rent to own just like a quote-unquote normal purchase where you've got a refundable deposits, condition date in the future, closing date in the future, and you've got a much better chance of closing the deal doing it the right way than the wrong way. Watch your money.